So what is the solution? 6 things. Number 1, give them hope. Give them something to lose. Nothing to lose is the most dangerous situation to be in. So give them something to lose. Give them hope. Remove discrimination. Skill development. Understanding of other faiths. A sense of belonging and fairness and justice. And that is where I come to my suggestions of what I believe should be done. I kept 3 criteria for myself when I was making suggestions. The suggestion should be easy, it should be cost effective, and it should be powerful. And inshallah, this is what my suggestions are. 5 things that need to be done. Number 1, vocational training. Number 2, entrepreneurial development. Number 3, an imam development program. Number 4, transparency in law enforcement. And number 5, responsible journalism. Sincerity is the foundation of success. Acting cannot be sustained. So let's start with that. Number 1, vocational training. Start a vocational training center in every school. We have enough, the timetable gives us enough freedom to do that during the school day. If that is not the case, do it in the evening, but start a vocational training center. If you do it in every school, there is no need for infrastructure to be set up. It can be done in the school building. The building already exists, so there's no cost involved. But every child must learn a skill. What they produce, the products can be sold and the income can be used by the center. And this also provides opportunity for employment for artisans and professionals who become the teachers. They can be paid from the output and the product of that vocational training center. It's a closed cycle which supports itself. So give every child in every school a marketable skill to earn a living on their own. Make them entrepreneurs. Number 2, entrepreneurial development, entrepreneurial training. Teach them how to write a business plan and how to pitch for investment. Teach them budgeting and profit and loss accounting. Teach them how hiring and team building, and teach them selling and service orientation. Teach them how to turn the skill into a business. All of this is teachable. All of this is teachable without cost, because there are any number of people, including myself, who are willing to do this free of cost for children. Number 3, set up a venture capital fund to enable young people to set up businesses. In this venture capital fund, where is the fund going to come from? The capital going to come from? Ask public and private enterprises, public and private businesses, and multinational corporations to give funds for this from their CSR. They will be very happy to do that. I know a lot of people are looking for viable and for credible places to invest their corporate social responsibility funds, CSR funds. They will be happy to give them. Ask them to provide the funds. And through this venture capital fund, give interest-free loans based on business plans to young people to start their businesses. Let them pay it back in easy installment. Give them that option. And put CEOs on the management board of this venture capital fund. The government must not have any involvement in this after setting up. We don't want to take up government time. We don't want to take up government energy in that. It is not necessary. Let it be a private enterprise. The people who are running companies know how to run that. Let them provide the funds through CSR. Let them run the venture capital fund so that it's self-sufficient and money is provided. So I've given you 3 things to do, none of which will cost money. Vocational training, entrepreneurship development, and a venture capital fund. All 3 are self-funded. Number 4, Imam development program. This is a little bit more complex. Involve ulama with contemporary knowledge in this program. The imams are the eyes and ears of the Muslim community. The imam has the platform on a Friday. This is probably the largest platform that's available to anybody in any religious establishment, where every Friday the imam is able to address people from across society, teach them what to say, teach them how to say that, give them that knowledge, teach them leadership skills, teach them how to speak, teach them counseling skills and so on, and don't do that through the police, don't do that very obtrusively, do that inobtrusively, using the minorities commissions if those are available in your countries, or use an NGO, but do that. Key requirement is to win the confidence of the ulama. Please understand, you are not going to get anything by attacking the ulama. The ulama are the leaders of the community. They are the eyes and ears of the community. You want to reach the community, you have to work through them, you have to give them prominence. So, what is this Imam Development Program? What I have conceptualized is a 3 to 6 month course covering the following. Number one, understanding current events. No propaganda, just honest appraisal. Understanding current events, what's going on, how to make sense of that. Number two, how to make the masjid a window into Muslim life and culture, for other people to come, to interact, to meet, to develop understanding. Number three, cross-cultural sensitivity, dialogue with people of other faiths and community service. Number four, refute the message of the extremists from the Islamic ideological angle. Remember, the narrative of the ISISs of the world is from the Islamic ideological perspective. They are taking Islamic ideology and twisting it and misrepresenting it. We need Muslim ulama and scholars to answer that from an ideological perspective. It is not simply enough to say this is bad. You have to show how it is bad in Islam. You have to show how it is haram in Islam. Number five, answering questions about current challenges in an Islamic context. How does Islam help me in my daily life? Number six, counseling skills. And number seven, public speaking skills. All of this we can discuss in detail. I'm just giving you this as a list of what this 3 to 6 month course will cover. Giving the Imam prominence and respect. As I told you, we have to work through the Imams, we have to work through the scholars, through the ulama. Very, very important. Do not support insults to the religion. Any religion. I am taking Islam because Islam is the only religion which is insulted. But any religion, do not support insults to religion. It is essential that government and media do not officially support those people who mock any religion or any religious symbols. Today there is a very foolish attempt to bring people, Muslims with Muslim names, who come up and who criticize Islam, who talk bad about the Prophet, who all of these cartoons, farce that was run all over the world in the name of freedom of expression. Please understand, it is not freedom of expression to insult somebody. We don't even allow that in our personal case. Why do you think that people who belong to a religion, whether it's Islam, whether it's Christianity, whether it's any religion, why do you think those people will allow or like someone to malign or to curse or to mock those things which they consider to be holy? I'm not saying you have to accept that. You live your own life. Let them live their own life. Leave them alone. People are entitled to their opinions. I've got no problem if somebody wants to criticize Islam. They are most welcome to do that. But government and media must be neutral. Equality means equal protection. Transparency in law enforcement. So we have been through 4 of the 5 things that I mentioned: vocational training, entrepreneurial development, along with which comes the issue of venture capital fund. And then we looked at the issue of Imam Development Program. Now we're saying transparency in law enforcement. Many times, and this is, I know, especially in India, the police is seen and defines itself as the coercive arm of government. I submit to you that in a democracy, there is no coercive arm. The police has to be the partner of the public. Solving crime is everybody's issue. It is my interest. I do not want, I'm a civilian, I do not want crime to happen. I want to live in a safe environment. And I am more than willing to partner and to participate with the police officer who wants to solve the crime. We are not on 2 sides of the table, we are on the same side. The police have to understand this and move out of this mental mindset of being the coercive arm of government. So sensitivity training for police officers and men. In 1991, I taught a course at the National Police Academy in Hyderabad called a sensitivity training course. One of the finest courses that I've ever taught. Wonderful course which was mandated by the Home Ministry at that time in the Rajiv Gandhi government. Later on, politics changed, the course was discontinued. I believe this course must be reinstated and it must be taught across the country in all the police training establishments. I am willing to teach that course free of cost. I'm not trying to promote this to make money. It is necessary for us to have sensitivity training for police officers, which must contain a basic course on what is Islam, to remove prejudice. And we must create sentient systems to have police-public partnership for crime prevention, and we need to take people into confidence in law enforcement. What do I mean by that? I mean that when you want to arrest somebody, if you want to arrest a Muslim boy or a Muslim girl or a Hindu or whoever, if you want to arrest somebody, take into confidence the family of that person, take into confidence their community elders, bring them all together, show them the evidence and say, look, this is the reason why we have to arrest this person. Assure them that that person will be treated well, keep them in judicial custody, treat them well, by all means interrogate them, by all means look for evidence. We are not supporting crime, we are not supporting terror. We believe that crime must be punished, we believe that terror must be stopped, but we believe that anyone who is a criminal must be punished, not a particular person, not a particular person from a particular religion or community. That is injustice. The crime must be punished, not differential punishment for different people. Take people into confidence. Picking up people just like that, 5 minutes after something happens, smacks and stinks of discrimination. Picking up somebody and holding them incognito, if it is done by a civilian, is called kidnapping. Why do you give it a different name if the police does it? Torturing people is not permitted in the CRPC or in the IPC, the criminal system of India. It is not permitted in the criminal system and criminal justice system of any country. Why do you do it? Killing people without extrajudicial killings, I don't care what the media likes to call it, extrajudicial killing is murder. Whether you wear a uniform or you do not wear a uniform does not change the fact that you are a murderer. And if you do more than once, then you are a serial killer. Live with that. Tell your wife and children what you are doing. Let us see how many of them are willing to stomach that. Seriously, we have to change ourselves. By all means, I am one of those. I am not even against capital punishment. I believe that if somebody decides to go and kill someone, then that person has put himself in a place where, after due process in law, if the capital punishment if he is sentenced to capital punishment, then that person should be hanged. I know many people in this world will not agree with me. With due respect, I disagree with you. But I am saying that I am definitely not for police murdering people in the name of the law. It is not the law. It is not the law of my country. It's not the law of any country. We have to stop doing that. Responsible journalism, very, very important. The media is the shield of the citizen. The media are our friends. The media is the conscience of the nation. Journalists are and must be champions of civil society. The media is not a PR company. The media is not an ad agency bought over by this or that media owner who owns the company and dictates to people what they must say. As a journalist, believe me, if you are following the dictates of your owners, then you are doing yourself a disservice. You are insulting your profession. You are a noble profession. Do not do that to yourself. Media is not a PR company. Media is not an ad agency. Media trial is injustice. It is blatant injustice. You can't hide behind labels like alleged and this and that. It is blatant injustice. If you character assassinate somebody who is only suspected, then you are doing irreparable harm to somebody which they will never recover from. No matter if the court frees them and pronounces them free from guilt, they will still be held accountable and they will still be held blameworthy by the whole public, and the media is responsible for that. Please do not do that. As I said in my speech yesterday in before the Minorities Commission at their program, there's a wonderful song in one of our old movies called Amar Prem, sung by Kishore Kumar, which has this beautiful line which says that Manjhdhar mein naiya dole to Majhi par lagaye, Majhi jo nao duboye use kaun bachaye. The boatman, if the boatman decides to sink his own boat, who is going to save that boat? The media are the boatmen of the community. Please do not sink your own boat. I submit to you, my brothers and sisters, justice is the enemy of ISIS. Let us stand for justice. Justice gives the lie to the recruiter's tail. The extremist action is really the scream of pain of someone who has lost hope. He feels that he has no choice. All legal doors seem to be closed to him. Therefore, what does he do? He hits out as his last chance to get attention in a world which doesn't care, in a world which has forgotten him, in a world in the eyes of which he does not exist. So he seeks negative attention, which he sees as being better than being ignored. Being ignored denies him his existence. Negative attention helps him to assert himself, even if it is only once. And that is a very dangerous situation to be in. Let us not be those people who push young people into that situation where they reach a level of desperation, where they believe they have nothing to lose, and so they go and they kill innocent people. Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, our Prophet Muhammad, 15 centuries ago, he showed the world that it is possible to defeat enemies not by killing enemies, but by killing enmity. He was the first to forgive his enemies when they were in his power. Nelson Mandela and Gandhiji followed his example. Tragically, the ISIS does the opposite while taking his name. That is why I say the ISIS and all extremist preachers are liars, and they are against Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We Muslims, we need to show the goodness of Islam. Mahatma Gandhi is the father of our nation of Indians. We Indians are the people of Mahatma Gandhi. We are the people whose forebearers proved to the world that non-violence actually works, and that non-violence can actually defeat a powerful enemy. What has happened to us today? Gandhiji has gone out of fashion. Our rhetoric today is characterized by hatred and extremism. Why? We have become reactionary. We are closer to our enemies than we are closer to those people who we hold dear, and to the person who we call the father of our nation. Seriously, we need to learn from our own history. Every Indian is by definition a Gandhian, because we are people who call Gandhiji the father of our nation. Let us learn something from the theory, from his philosophy of ahimsa, which we claim to be our philosophy. Is it really our philosophy? Does the philosophy of ahimsa allow us to speak the way we speak? Extremist speech, hate speech, all kinds of extremist rhetoric. Is this what Gandhiji's philosophy teaches? It is not Gandhiji's philosophy. It is most definitely not the philosophy and the culture and the ideology of Islam. To quickly come to a conclusion, I submit to you that we live in a global village. The success of our democracy is not only dependent on the integrity of its leaders, but even more on the activism of the public. It is the public which needs to remind leaders that they hold their positions at the pleasure of the electorate. It is when the electorate forgets its own power and becomes subservient to leaders that democracies metamorphose into dictatorships in all but name. We have to own the problem to solve it, because it is only given into the hands of the owners to solve the problem. There are 4 critical to success, CTS conditions for success. Number 1, the ability of all leaders of all Muslim groups to unite on the need to solve this. I am not saying unite in terms of ideology. We can have our different ideologies, but we need to unite on the need to solve this problem of ISIS, extremism and radicalization. Number 2, the ability of police all over the world to change their approach to law enforcement. You cannot do that through the barrel of a gun. Please understand very clearly. Number 3, the ability of all community leaders to work together, Muslim and non-Muslim. And number 4, be prepared for the long term. It's not an instantaneous solution. The problem did not happen instantly. The solution will not happen instantly. But with perseverance, inshallah, we will definitely succeed. Because this is about the survival of all our families. Please understand, we have to be prepared to work consistently and to work quietly, under the radar, without flash bulbs, without press conferences, without headlines. If you don't do that, if you seek publicity, believe me, you will destroy this even before it starts. Final slide. We Muslims are in a double bind today. I am quoting from a beautiful article, the link of that is given at the bottom of the slide. The person says very clearly, he says all of this, which means all that is happening in the world today, puts Muslims in a double bind. If they just go about their lives, they stand condemned by those who demand that Muslims must speak out. But if they do speak out, then they can expect to be told that short of declaring their sacred texts, Quran and Sunnah, as invalid, they are fooling themselves or deceiving the rest of us. Muslims are presented with this brutal logic in which the only way to truly dissociate from ISIS and escape suspicion is to renounce Islam altogether. I say to you, with the entire authority at my command, sitting here in a masjid with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as my witness, that will never happen. We will never denounce Islam. We will never leave Islam. Let me make this absolutely clear. If you want this problem to be solved, we have to work together. If you don't do that, you can demonize Islam till you are green in the face. We do not believe you. We will never, never, never leave Islam. وصلى الله على نبي الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين والحمد لله رب العالمين.